The first reading strategy that we're going to look at is called identifying what you know. And how this reading strategy works is you aim to help learners connect to the text through applying their background knowledge. So when learners are faced with unfamiliar or difficult information, you want learners to be able to apply their background knowledge to the information to help them create meaning and understanding. When explaining a concept or reading a text, encourage learners to identify information, content or terminology that they already know within the text. Remember that often reflecting on the meaning of words that they already know will enable them to acquire a deeper understanding of new information and text. So what's key to remember is that learners are working with information that they are struggling to understand. And a key strategy is to read the information, find any information. It could be a word, just a piece of terminology. It could be a section of the content or certain information that they already know. And through using that information that they know, they're going to try and make sense and decode the rest of the text. Now, there are certain questions you can use in your classroom and in your teaching to prompt learners to draw on their background knowledge. So you can ask learners, what do they already know? So you've read the text and then you ask them to find something that they already know. It is just as important for learners to identify what they do not understand. That way they can apply different strategies to try and work it up, or perhaps ask someone next to them, ask the teacher. They can look it up in the book or on the web. So although you want to identify what you know, it is just as important to identify what you do not understand. You could ask learners, what terms or words have you previously learnt about? Often, many subjects build on content year after year after year. And much of the terminology flows through the progression through these grades. And so even if the text is more difficult to understand because it's of a higher caliber, there might be terminology that the learner is already familiar with. And if they can identify that, then they could possibly use that to decode and understand the rest of the text. Another question is, have you ever read about or seen this somewhere before? It doesn't matter if the learner hasn't read about this anywhere and they actually cannot apply anything to the text. But you want them to think back, oh goodness, I remember reading an article in a magazine, or my mom told me about this, or my brother did a project on this, and what do I remember from it? Can I use that information and that past background knowledge of mine to decode the text? Now let's work through an example together. Now this section of text is called or titled Outbreak of World War II, Axis versus Allies. Hitler made a military agreement with Mussolini, the dictator of fascist Italy. Hitler also made an agreement with Russia, which stated that if a war was to break out, that Russia would remain neutral. On 1 September 1939, Nazi armies invaded Poland, which was the beginning of World War II. Britain and France then declared war on Germany on the 3rd of September 1939. Later, Italy joined forces with Germany, and in 1941, Germany attacked Russia, who then joined the war on the side of Britain and France. Now, it's always important for you to read the information to your learners and then give them time to read the text on their own before you start prompting them with questions and to engage them on the strategy. So the key question that you could ask your learners for this text is, what did you know already? So again, you allow them to read the information and ask them to underline, highlight, it doesn't matter, any information or words or terminology that they knew already. And an example answer could be, I know World War II was started by Germany, or I know about genocides in Germany, or something as simple as I know World War II came after World War I. There is no right or wrong answer. The point is to help the learner engaged and really dive into the text on a deeper level. Another question that you can ask is, what don't you understand? So ask your class to take a highlighter or a colored pen or pencil and to underline any words or terminology that they don't understand. So it could be I didn't understand why Germany attacked Russia if they had a military agreement. They didn't understand this concept. Or maybe they don't understand what the word fascist means. Then later on, they can go and look this up, and it will create more meaning for the text. The learner will understand it on a whole new level. Another question you can ask is, have I ever read about or seen this somewhere? So often learners may have read about World War II somewhere. It could be a storybook or a textbook, and they already have some prior knowledge on the topic. And an example answer could be, and it doesn't always have to be a book, but an example answer could be like, yes, my brother is 2 years older than I am, and he told me to do a book review on The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which is a story about a boy in a concentration camp in Nazi Germany. Now remember, the reason for these questions is not to get a correct response from the learners. It's to assist them to really engage with the information in front of them, to not just read on a surface level, but to really get to that active understanding zone and to dive into that text and try and make meaning, which will help them to remember and recall this information much quicker.